Okay.
No.
Okay, this is October the 18th no, October the 20th of 2025, and the
Try
folks,
21.
it is. It's 2021 by you. That means 2025.
Oh,
Um,
19th was Sunday. Right. 20. 20 it is. No, 20 was
okay,
Sunday. It is
all
20.
right. October
Well,
20th
I think
of
Mark's talking about the
2025.
year. Ethel's talking about December.
You see that we're already getting to the Jews with many opinions, right? I like this. This is good. This is good. We're talking to Daniel Kahn as part of our series of interlocutors on the topic of deep understanding of the Yiddish folk song. And this is a person who has such knowledge. So take it away, Dan.
Wow. Okay. So I would love to skip the I would love to skip the formalities, but I really wanted to say what a huge honor it is to just be in any kind of space with you guys, with all of you illustrious mavens and chachomim and azelche lichter in unser Himmel.
It's
So
mutual.
Very mutual.
Definitely.
mutual aid. So okay, so I'd made the mistake of like watch not the mistake, but like just a couple hours ago, like trying to like I was watching Isabel's presentation and I was like, oh my God, she's so brilliant and prepared and she's such an academic and this is like this amazing, you know, it's like the opening scene in Superman the movie where all of the people on Krypton are like the council of Jor-El and it was just really inspiring, but I feel a little intimidated. So I'm I'm not an academic. I'm
Thank God.
Neither am I.
Thank God.
thank God for that too, but nothing. But the way one thing that I dig about our little Veltel is how everybody it's kind of on everybody to be like scholarship is not academic, and doesn't have to be academic. And so I collect books, and so I brought out a bunch of books to kind of get in the right headspace here, and to talk about my interaction with Yiddish folk song as a translator and singer of those songs, and kind of going back through the songs in my repertoire, songs I've recorded, songs that I still perform. There's like some folk material and not a lot, well, not as much as I would have thought. Um, and a great deal of the the folk songs that I've translated are in this book. Um,
Suitably dog
which I
eared.
don't know. I don't know. This thing is
Su-
falling apart. Let me tell you.
Suitably
This whole
dog-eared, and it's the
section,
second edition.
Right.
and it. Oh, look! I don't know what is this. I'm. I've got a FIFA player card marking one page here. So Stephanie Cox from the Team USA is
Yeah.
marking dem ersten Tag von der Mobilisatie. I never thought she'd end up there. But I want to talk. I know that in your engagement with traditional Yiddish songs, you have a fairly loose definition of what is folk material, right? I mean, it's sort of, let's not say not loose, but flexible or broad. Um, I'm still a fan of what Dave Van Ronk put in his book, The Mayor of McDougal Street, which was that, when he was coming up, like, no one talked about folk songs or folk music as a genre. They talked about folk processed songs, that folk was just a kind of a signifier of that they didn't know who wrote it or it's been folk processed, right? And then I guess folk music became kind of commercial endeavor, and more of a commercial moniker, much like punk rock or klezmer for that matter. And so, by that regard, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we deal with, whether it's by David Edelstadt or Mordechai Gebirtig, I mean, or Woody Guthrie, this stuff this is folk music now. I think that there's rap music that's folk music. I mean, when people at protests they sing a song by Kendrick Lamar, this is because that is now a folk song. And I don't remember who it was, but they said, like, be careful to not confuse popular culture with commercial culture, because popular culture is folk culture, and folk music is popular music. So I see these definitions as being very flexible, but I went through the songs that I've translated and songs that started in Yiddish, and I translated them into English, and I made a list and of some songs that I wanted to look at with you all. There's also, it's up to you, but if you want me to talk a little bit about just my translation process per se, that's something that I could focus on. So, okay. Well, I guess we could do that. Mark, I couldn't tell if that was a yes or
No, that was for we're saying hello to Itzik.
I was just
Hi,
waving to
Itzik.
Itzik, but
Oh,
I feel like
you're waving hi to Itzik. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
right, right.
beautiful beard, Itzik.
Where is it? Let me see.
I just suddenly saw us as kind of the panel of like a
Oh,
TV.
Itzik.
Yeah, Itzik. Was episode Mama Shabod.
So you're going to share your list of songs.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I've got two documents here. Okay. I've got one is this it's a list of songs and their lyrics and my translations, as well as one little article thing that I wrote that I would maybe like to share. And the other thing that I have here is a kind of a paper that I wrote about my translation process and how I approach translating a song into a singable version. And I don't know if you would want me to show any parts of that text, if you want me to read something to you,
Just
or I could just
Dan.
I could just share it to.
Yeah. Any and all, Dan. I mean,
All right. Let me.
I
let me
made you
rock it through
co-host so
this.
you can share.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, I guess this is a good place to start. Let me share this. How do I do that? Sharing is caring. Sharing. Share.
Sharing is bearing.
Sharing is where.
Sharing is. Sharing is.
sharing is daring.
Okay.
Yeah. Daring is
I've got. I just happen to have Sammy Kahn's rhyming dictionary here. And I can tell you that the introduction to the Songwriter's Rhyming Dictionary by Sammy Kahn is one of the best texts about songwriting I've ever read. It's a really great resource. He really breaks it down. So, okay. This paper of mine. I called it Yiddish Song Smuggling, Tradaptation and Polyglot Performance. I wrote it for a book that never happened, and then I presented it at a conference that also never happened, except online because of the pandemic. But there's a couple of passages that I think are relevant. I consider myself a kind of immigrant in the world of Yiddish. As a singer and songwriter with a background in theater and poetry, one of my primary modes of engagement with Yiddish has been to render Yiddish songs into singable English. When first encountering the Yiddish songs that really spoke to me, I was struck by the limited ways in which meaning could be conveyed to a non-Yiddish literate listener, such as myself. I found that performers relied heavily on spoken summaries of a song's meanings, recited as quickly as possible. They would play a vamp, and then they'd say, when the Rabbi Elimelech was very joyful, etc. And then the Yiddish singing would begin. This seemed to be awkward and rather an effective means of cutting through the cloud of sentimental non-apprehension which hovers over many audiences of Yiddish music. Rather than connecting an audience to the immediate human relevance of a song's meaning, it functioned to preserve the nebulous aura of exoticism around Yiddishkeit. So, the effective translation of song lyrics out of Yiddish, or with its deep idiomatic lyrical traditions and inherent musicality, demands all the aesthetic considerations present in the composing of original poetry or song. One must have an ear for the flexibility of vernacular modalities in Yiddish, as well as an awareness of the effects and expectations associated with contemporary performance of Yiddish for a largely non-Yiddish literate oilem. Indeed, the term translation only partially applies to this process, referring to the process of free adaptation. The German Nachdichtung, after composing, comes closer. In Norwegian, the term in usage is gjendichtning, which means again lyricizing. I use the word tradaptation, translation adaptation. I thought I had coined it myself, but it has been used in theater discourse, first by French Canadian poet and theater artist Michel Garneau.
Because I'm constantly attributing it to you, and you're the person I know.
I did come up with it, but somebody else also came up with it earlier that I didn't know about.
It's such a wonderful word, and I mean, while I'm blathering on when you're supposed to be talking, I love the fact that in so many of these contexts, it also contains the trad of traditional.
Exactly, trad. Yeah, that's why I love it. I mean, I also say here, Yiddish terms like nosech or gilgul also apply to the process, and I mean, once I discovered where that term came from, it was a bit of a it was obvious, because no one expects a theatrical translation to be faithful, or literally faithful. No one expects a literal translation of anything if you're translating for the stage. You're not going to go and see a literal translation of Shakespeare in German or Chekhov in English. There's always going to be an adaptation because of the functionality of the translation. So the whole question of fidelity is not even part of it. The way it is when you talk about literary translation. And for some reason, songs, they're in a kind of they're in between things. They're not, it's literary, but it's not exactly literary. So the song is recreated in the new idiom without violating the spirit of the original. This requires a combination of translation strategies depending on the performance's context, audience, cultural function. As much as translation is an act of close reading and transmitting an existing text, it's also necessarily a mode of creation or recreation. According to David Roskies, every act of recreation is essentially subversive, and every successful recreation is always parasitic. Mm-hmm. I really liked this little bit. That was in his book, The Bridge of Longing, I think. The one about creative betrayal. In light of this, translating a song is somewhat like breaking into and occupying a house. One looks for an open window, a breakable lock. You don't need to hear this. I dragged that metaphor on till it's dead.
That's a cool metaphor. It's good.
It's great. I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, you don't have to skip over parts of this. I love hearing you.
Well, maybe
okay, all right.
How many pages is it? It may be a bit long.
It's like 5 pages.
No, but go ahead.
I'm just reading the intro.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't long. It was one of these Yeah. Anyway, I think the whole thing is like 9 pages, but I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like one looks for an open window, a breakable lock, an easy entry. Once inside, one makes sure there's no one else there. And then one goes room to room, taking what can be used, learning the structure of the house. Eventually, one must go back and fix what had to be broken to get in. And then it's done. The song is squatted. This may be a rather violent metaphor. Surely tradiptation need not imply violation, but violation and liberation can be two aspects of the same act. And I heard Isabel also reference the task of the translator. Walter Benjamin once cryptically prescribed that the task of the translator consists in finding that intended effect upon the language into which he is translating, which produces in it the echo of the original. So what does this echo sound like when the translation must also function as a musical performance that both entertains and elucidates the original? All too often, singable translations don't work because they attempt to render too literally the original language, yet still strain to rhyme. These two concerns, if given too much consideration, can overwhelm a translator's ability to make the work idiomatic and lyrically musical. Many examples of this can be found in bilingual collections of Yiddish songs published for the non-Yiddish speaking Jewish American youth in the post-war era. For instance, in Jerry Silverman's Yiddish songbook, we find a version of modern Yiddish author Moshe Nadir's folklorized anti-Hasidic song Der Rebbe Elimelech. In Silverman's singable translation, when Rabbi Elimelech got very joyful, is said in English as Elimelech, our rabbi, was once feeling very happy. And one can assume that the word rabbi is meant to rhyme with happy and not the other way around. Should a singer try to compromise and sing Rebbe and Happy? To the degree that the translation is playful, one could possibly make it work, but it doesn't do what one could call justice to the song, or the rabbi for that matter. It goes on to sing of phylacteries for tefillin, a cape for a kittel, and cymbaluming cymbalers, and even an asterisk footnote for the Sabbath prayer Havdalah. When one requires a footnotes to be sung, the translation may be lacking. In this case, the issuance of a license for poetic liberty may have been in order. On the other hand, one mustn't go so far in this poetic liberty so as to lose touch with the gesture of the original entirely. My favorite example of this is found in the East German volume of Yiddish songs, Es brennt, Brüder, es brennt, edited by the legendary singer Lynn Yeldati and her husband Eberhard Rebling. The GDR poet Heinz Karlau provided German Nachdichtungen of many of the Yiddish folk songs, and the same song quoted above is Germanized in his version as Als der Rabbi Elimelech ist geworden etwas fröhlich. It seems that the recontextualization to German required a slight mitigation of the rabbi's enthusiastic joy. One artist who managed to strike an impressive balance in his song translations was the great polyglot polymath Theodor Bickel. He often spoke of translation as a part of his process in making a song his. These translations were then used to help his international audiences connect with the songs themselves. His English versions have the idiomatic quality of his own precise, yet decidedly idiosyncratic, non-native English. As he once told me, I'll stay up all night for a rhyme. But he also knew when rhymes weren't necessary. In the version of the above song he included in his 1960 folk song collection, Folk Songs and Footnotes. It's in the other room. The verse begins, when the Rabbi Elimelech felt a happy mood upon him. Already the idiomatic flow of the translation is more balanced and eased. His translation goes on not to rhyme at all, but the voice of the English is assured and unforced. Indeed, it's the voice of Bickel himself. His is a case where the translations are tailored by and for the same performer. As I endeavored to make songs mine, I thought a lot about Bickel's effective voice and the role of translation in his work as a kind of intercultural folk ambassador. Okay, so then I go on to talk about the very first song that I translated, which into Yiddish in a serious way, which was something that happened in the presence of you, Michael, in 2005. Mm-hmm. And that was my translation of Huliet Huliet Beze Winten, which I came across this song just in the Molotek books, and I was drawn to it, and I wanted to learn how to sing it because I was really just starting to take Yiddish or myself seriously as a Yiddish singer. And I made an English translation of it, more or less to help me understand the song, just to get closer to the song myself. And I kind of rewrote the song as if I had written it as an original song of mine. And then I showed it to you, Michael, and you said, hey, that's not bad. You should sing that too sometime. And then I started performing it. And that was kind of how I found my way in. And I think I can put this away. That was kind of what I wanted to focus on. About song smuggling here, I say. I talk about how I started using projectors for super titles, etc., and that has sort of changed things. But now, more often than not, I'll still project. Sometimes I'll project what I'm singing, or I'll project a German translation of my English translation, or there's all kinds of ways of crossing over. And I think it's also a healthy thing as a performer to like not only have one strategy, to not only have one way of conveying meaning of the material. It's nice to have some things that you sing the translation. It's nice to have some things where you project something. And it's also nice to have some things that you don't translate at all and let them bask in the warm bath of incomprehension. And then there's the audiences that actually speak Yiddish. And those are the greatest audiences in the world. And there I love to sing my translations because they understand, they can hear what went into it, and they can hear both things. And I, with very few exceptions, actually I can't think of any time where I would sing a Yiddish song entirely in translation, where I don't sing some of the Yiddish. And it was years before I gave myself permission to not sing all of the Yiddish, to combine things or to leave things out and to do a combination of languages. So that's a kind of sprint through my... I can read you the wrapping up of this if that would be interesting.
Sure.
The last
Yeah, that
paragraph.
sounds good.
All right. Taken together with the processes of singable lyric adaptation, the borders of language, culture, musical genre, and socio-historical context have never been more permeable. One need only embrace the art of the smuggler. In the Jewish criminal cant of the medieval Alsace-Lorraine region, there was a deeply clever way of referring to a smuggler, a Neinziger. My teacher at YIVO in 2008, Avram Lichtenboim, he spoke of this 1,000-year-old Western Yiddish term, avoiding any word that would be understood by German or French speakers, such as contrebandier. The name was a riff on the French number 90, quatre-vingt-dix, not a far leap to contrabandiste. It was an example of the ways in which Yiddish can erode and subvert borderlines. Yiddish itself is a Neinziger, smuggling meanings out of one tongue and into another and storing them away deep in its lexicon. Never having been bound to one official national territory, Yiddish carries countless traces of all the languages and cultures with which it's lived. As the joke goes, I speak dozens of languages, but all of them Yiddish, blah, 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 you've heard that. Or to borrow a more current and contentious... Oh, well,
Josh has arrived.
Yiddish, the German phrase Yiddish is a language with a Migrationshintergrund. This multiplicity of contexts, this baked-in border crossing poses certain challenges when attempting to translate out of Yiddish into another language, but it can also be liberating. As Yiddish literary and translation scholar Anita Norwich put it, of necessity then, Yiddish has always been permeable, open to other literary influences, looking to other languages and traditions in dialogue with them. This multilingual cultural exchange may make Yiddish literature peculiarly adaptive to translation, despite popular notions of its untranslatability. Like a smuggler with contraband, the task of a modern Yiddish song translator requires more than simply creating an accurate rendering of content in a new language. One must translate the gesture and spirit behind the song and allow it to express itself in the new idiom. As a lyric translator, composer, singer, and theater artist, my engagement with Yiddish has been concerned not only with the crossing of cultural, linguistic, and historical boundaries, but with subverting and complicating them. If translation, as Susan Sontag once wrote, is the circulatory system of the world's literatures, it is vital that our songs and the human stories they contain not get stopped at the border. Okay.
Well,
So that
if we ever finish this, it would be great to put it up on our website.
Exactly.
I have a more or less finished version of it.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I wrote this article at there was supposed to be this book about why hip that Diana Matute was working on.
Right.
And I don't know if any of you wrote for that thing.
No, but
okay.
Yeah.
So
I just had a little back and forth with Alan about it, and he more or less said it's been buried because the original publisher was sold to another publisher, and they're not interested, something like that. So.
Okay. Well, I'll do a little tidying up of the text, but I'll send it to you, and
Please, yeah.
It's an original contribution. Yeah.
I mean, it's also me like faking academic talk.
No, I mean, it's fabulous. I mean, to me, I think that's the whole point is like, certainly you and I mean, we are scholar practitioners, expert practitioners, practitioners and contemplators of what we do. And I don't think, you or you of all people don't need to apologize for not being an academic. This is fabulous.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. I mean,
maybe you should stop sharing so we can see you again.
Oh yeah, I'll stop. Thank you.
Yeah.
The term, the term I like to use is just song worker. It's like,
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's from Leonard Cohen, like everything else I do. That was called Love for the Workers in Song. It's what we tinker with. These are our Waren, Scheure.
Right. It's funny because I was just I'm preparing a bio for something, and there was a spoof bio I wrote about myself where I referred to my composition of my own composition of new Yiddish songs. I create songs incomprehensible to most of my audience. Which it isn't entirely true anymore. I mean, it's become both more and less true.
Right.
True. The younger people get.
Do you want to show us an example, or what were you thinking of doing?
Okay, so the list of songs that I'll get now. I'll share this.
Yeah.
Now I'll share this. There it is. Okay, so let me put that away. So this is adapting from the folk poet, from Mr. and Mrs. Folk, whoever they are. And I think, of course, it's important to stress that the folk never wrote anything, and that everything that has ever been sung was originally come up with by some human. And that's been true up until about 2 months from now, when AI is going to write all the songs, I guess, and we can all learn how to do physical labor. But Yeah, I mean, I've messed around with it. I asked AI to make me a singable translation of some Schubert lead, and it sucked.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. That's
it's,
why that's why I'm skeptical, but it will make a dent for sure. It
it
is
will,
making a
but
dent.
I mean, it's missing the main thing, right? And that's the
Yeah.
other thing that thinking about this list of songs here, right? Like this list of songs that mostly from Mr. Slobin's and Mr. Beregovsky's work, is that if you're gonna sing, if you're gonna translate a folk song, it kind of demystifies it, right? Like then it's like it's not a folk song anymore. It's your version of a folk song, which is not, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but there is a slight difference when I don't know whose work I'm messing with. I don't know whose work I'm trying to represent. And then it's really about the context in which this song was sung or in which I heard this song, where it can be found. And in the case of these songs, particularly the political ones, like what function their meaning has in the world today, right? So a lot of these songs I ended up working on in collaboration with Psoy Korolenko and our project, the Internationale, where we explicitly want to like play around with ideology and kind of from a left bent, but having fun with things rather than making fun of things. And Wie heilig is die Natur, that's, I mean, do you all know this song? It's such a weird song, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'll just play through some of these. All right. So, Wie heilig ist die Natur, it's in here. And it's probably from the late 19th century because it shares a melody with a well-known Imperial Russian hymn called Kol Slaven. And so Wie heilig ist die Natur, mit ihrer freie Führung, Emes und Liebe, ihre Zierung, ihr Schmuck. Wir legen auf den Herzen die rechte Hand und schmerren mit so wie's jetzt, als von Tod und von Leben wie ein eiserne Wand, wenn der Schwert von Emes blitzt. Wenn einer von uns ist zu schwach gewiss, denn zu giftig ist der Kapital, also wie von dem Schlang der Biss. Wenn mit Emes und Liebe gebunden, unser Bund ist wie am Mäuer steht fest, und die Liebe ist in Herzen ungezunden, wrong key, die Liebe von Freiheit und menschlichem Glück, die ne komme fordert unser Blut. Vor unser Blut wächst ständig sehr Guts und reich, ziehen sie von unseren Beinen, ach zum Soft tritt man uns wie die Steine, Brüder und Schwestern. I'm gonna change the key. Brüder und Schwestern, die kommen fordert unser Blut, von unser Blut wächst ständig sehr Guts und reich, ziehen sie von unseren Beinen, ach zum Soft tritt man uns wie die Steine, Brüder und Schwestern, nehmt euch vor die Hand, kommt zu dem Feuer, wo der Flacker brennt. Wir seien Proletariat, das heißt Rabotschi Narod, die eiserne Ketten lommer zerreißen, dem schweren Joch herunterzuschmeißen. Schreit Narod, vpriot, 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 vpriot. So, it's huge. It never repeats anything. It's a totally weird. It's like a song from Les Miserables or something. And when I translated it in a kind of I recorded it with the translation in a kitchen in Moscow in 2008 or something, in 2010 maybe, and it just feels totally from a different planet. There, I feel like it references a certain romanticism to the pre-revolutionary period, which feels so archaic and foreign to me, but I love it. I love like the natural, and to sing it in English, it just gets really music theater really fast. How holy is nature, how free her spirit, truth is her jewel and love her crown. But I have to lean into that weirdness, that strangeness to me, and that expressivity. And the translation that I did, you can see it's really direct one-to-one, and this was a case of like me not trying to make it modern and not trying to make it and somehow singing it in a very literal translation, a very direct translation. The fact that makes me uncomfortable is also kind of part of the story that I want to tell about the song. That my distance to that kind of sentimentality in a revolutionary spirit is something that I'm not comfortable with that either. And to quote Psoy Pasha, it's like he says, I want to tell a true story about my relationship to Yiddish. And part of that story is that this is a foreign language for him that he didn't grow up with, but it's had something to do with where he came from and where his people came from. And for me to explore like the emotional territory of a situation which I do not share, and a kind of emotional sensibility that I don't necessarily share, is also, it's a kind of act of like excavating past futures, excavating ideals and movements that I feel are acutely lacking in the world today and in my life. And so that's what I get from this song. But I've sung it very little. I recorded it once, and I've taught it a couple of times in workshops about like revolutionary songs and workers' songs. A song that I have performed a little bit more, and this is a good example of kind of squaring up a song for a performance in the translation. Like, this is schwer. Let me put it up here. Schwer und bitter wie der Tod. So this is I think song number 1 in the Berezovsky book. And I've heard a number of I've played this for a number of people who said, oh, this is the same tune as some other song. I heard there's an Israeli song that has the same basic melody. I don't know what that song is. I don't know if you all know this song. Let's try it here. Schwer und bitter wie der Tod. Also ist doch nur dem Arbeiter Leben. Und jetzt, als vor dem trockenen Stückel Brot, muss seine Kräfte noch ergeben. Als vor dem Trug im Stückele Brot. Muss seine Kräfte weggeben, oi alle Tag wünsch ich mir dem Toit, wünsch ich mir dem Toit. Besser wollte ich nicht gewinn geboren werden go. Jeder zu leiden, als bitter Neue. So mir finster die Tag, so mir bitter die Jür. Alle Tag wünsch ich mir dem Toit. And bitter as the grave, working life can be worker's death. Only a poor crust of bread for a wage, work until your last and dying breath. Sometimes I wish that I were never born, than to live as such a low peasant slave. My days are so dark and my years are forlorn. Each hour brings me closer to the grave. At dawn beside the door I take my place. The boss hears every word I dare to speak. I tremble with fear that I will be replaced, tossed out of the door into the street. Oh, ich komm ran in der Früh und stell mich weg beim Ballabus auf der Tier. Beim Ballabus auf der Tier. Und smehe noch nicht ausreden, kein hohe Wort. Ich will doch mehr, soll nicht absagen mir. Soll nicht zunehmen der Zweiten auf mein Ort. Ich will doch mehr, soll nicht absagen mir. Und soll nicht zunehmen der Zweiten auf mein Ort. So, I haven't sung this in a long time, if you can't tell. But it's kind of an amazing song. Like I was struck when I first really started going through this book, when I first got it, and this we're talking about 20 years ago or something. I was struck by like how many. Well, first of all, I was struck by the title, which Mark, I would ask you about that. If not now, then sometime.
It's my invention. I didn't know what to call this book that anybody could relate to.
Okay.
And so I said, "Look, it's a book of old Jewish folk music." I said, that
great.
People
because I thought it was maybe
people
like
can figure that out,
from,
but I mean, it's just almost impossible to think of what to call it.
I didn't know if that was from Beregovsky, like Stary Narodny, like something, like Yevreysky. No. Because I have also his book here, but I think it's just called Yiddish Volkslieder.
Yeah, right.
like a website, but first of all, I was struck by so a lot of these things are not very old, and a lot of these things are not very folk, and a lot of these things are not very Jewish. Except that they're in Yiddish, right? So, I mean, yes, Jewish is Yiddish for Yiddish, but it's a complicated title, right? Because you have this thing where I would venture to say that this melody is older than this text, almost certainly, right? And it's probably a lot older than this text, and so this text was fit to it for a certain very modern narrative and very modern political narrative. And this is what you have in a lot of political folk songs. I mean, this is what I love about the Little Red Songbook, the IWW Songbook, is like, and for a lot of those songs, and this goes back to broadsides, very often it was just a text that was set to some well-known melody, and it would say, sung to the Marseillaise or sung to the miller's daughter or whatever, And so when I went to make an English version of it, I threw out all of this recitativo, like all the repeats and all the rubato stuff, and it just turns into like kind of a lyric. And then it goes back into that at the end. And this is one of the first ones that I ever touched. I remember singing this song in the early days of playing with my band, The Painted Bird. I remember at one point I was singing into a mask. I had a bird mask on, and I stuck the microphone of my megaphone into the mask. And I came in, it was in a bar in Berlin. I came in and was sort of incanting this, it was a kind of an incantation of this, because it's also it's a scary song, it's dark, it's a blues, but it's also like it's a death blues. It's a song of like real, like capital D despair. So that's Schwer und bitter wie der Tod. And I recorded it once, and then I never released it. I recorded it in a duet with Sasha Luria, but we never nailed it. Someday I'll release a whole album of duets that we recorded and never released. Another song.
While we're still on it, the melody is, at least, I mean, it's the verse at least is it's a Bulgar form, and I can't think of older versions, but it's the same form as it's a variant of the melody of, for example, one thing that comes to mind is Jeden tanzt dem heimischen Bulgar, or Jeden tanzt dem heimischen Bulgar. Also, but even more so, closer to Halavai,
yeah.
Gefehlte Fisch, Halavai wollt dir gewinnen, gefehlte Fisch, und wenn ihr wollt gewinnen, gefehlte Fisch, wollt ihr geben jeden Akisch. I mean, etc.
Which I also stole and I used for a song of mine called "The Butcher's Share," which
that's right.
Yeah, which I never put it together that it's the same as this tune. But now that you say it's, well, the world has never been so very small. Though they say you've got enough to feed us all, so you better save a nickel while you can. But it needn't come from someone else's hand. That's interesting. Schwer und bitter wie der Tod. Oh, I never put that together. Amazing.
Yeah.
If I could ask one translation choice, just
Sure.
Alle Tag wünsch ich mir dem Tod. You didn't translate it, but it says.
Yeah, I know.
Why
I went the other
not?
way.
Yeah.
I wanted to erase the birth, not it's. Yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes I wish that I were never born.
Yeah, well, that would be, that's different. That's even different than, every day I wish I were dead is a little different, right?
It's a little different, but the end result is the same.
Yeah.
Well, the end result is always the same.
It's forestalling it from even happening.
I mean, yeah, it was, I don't know if it was Socrates or somebody said the best thing is to never have been born. But I don't know why I made it. Probably I needed a rhyme for forlorn.
Well, yeah, that's where
I doubt that. Forlorn sounds like that's needed a rhyme. I needed a rhyme for born. Yeah. I thought the real chutzpahdik thing was like kind of half quoting Hamlet with this low and peasant slave.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I? I mean, the weird thing, because this is a very early translation for me, and I'm not saying that I don't still do this, but somehow when I started translating Yiddish songs into English, I allowed myself flights of poetic fancy that I never allowed myself in just English songs that I was writing. Right. Like there was a kind of territory of expressivity and drama that was unlocked in me that I never would have. I mean, sometimes I still think it's too much for English. That in Yiddish you can get that heavy, but in English, it gets purple. But I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
boy.
I first of all, apologies for coming in at the last minute, but I think the point you're on now is of great interest to me, which is, um, and I don't know that we'll have time for you to answer this or give an answer today, but um, the Yiddish texts have one relationship to the spoken Yiddish, the vernacular Yiddish of the time they were written, and your English texts have what seems to me quite a different relationship between your spoken English and the English of those texts. And I wonder if you could talk a bit about that, because that's one of the things that really strikes me as uh, a topic of interest in creating both translations and dual, mixtures of translation and original text
Well,
songs.
it's a really good question, Josh. I mean, I think there's a part of me that is aiming to reflect not my own vernacular, but a kind of imaginary English equivalent
Mm-hmm.
of the time in which or the mostly the time or the milieu in which the song originally emerged. So when I translated, mein Ruheplatz, and it was funny because when Adrian sang, like, which was a huge honor for me, she sang my translation a couple of times. She like kind of de-archaicized my English because I think I had something like "Look not for me in nature's greenery," you know,
Mm-hmm.
and she just sang like "Don't look for me in nature's greenery." Um, and I think I was attempting to like approximate. I like reading old translations, I understand how like really great literature needs to continually be retranslated. This is something that Yeva has talked about a lot, you know, and I love reading I love reading a new translation of something, but I have an old book of like Chekhov short stories that was translated in like 1911 or something. And I love it. I love that I hear the age in the English as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I was trying to approximate that. I mean, Josh, when I translated your song Nine and Nine Sick, I didn't do that, I don't think. Like they're driving us out of town, you
Well,
know?
because that wasn't written 120 years ago.
But I don't think I sat down and said like, okay, I want to make this really Heintic in my English. I think it was more just like
Yeah.
that's sort of automatically what I did. There are other things that I'm just looking through. Let me know when we're out of time or how long you want to do this for. But so one flexibility is like what register or what sort of sensibility you have into idiom. Uh, Another thing is that you can like reflect a complex attitude towards the material in the way that you translate it.
Mm-hmm.
You can and particularly in my work with Pasha, that kind of playfulness lent itself to a lot of really great good times with songs. This song here, which is also in the Bergovsky book, Brider, eb Gott wird uns nicht helfen, Lome sich befreien allein, und Lome sich zerreißen von die Ketten, und Lome allein zusammengehen. This has become a kind of anthem in several different settings for us. And you can see, we translated it into like 5 different languages. It's just this one little, and the tune is very similar to the O lieber wir haben geschlossen auf Leben und Tod Verband, but it's a little different. Brüder, lieb Gott wird uns nicht helfen, lass mir sich befreien allein, und lass mir sich zerreißen von die Ketten, und lass mir allein zusammengehen. Oi lo me sich zu reißen von die Ketten und lo mir allein zusammengehen. So, obviously in Yiddish, the word allein means on our own, right? But I also kind of macaronically somewhat fell in love with this, just this allein zusammen, like alone together. Even though it's together on our own, I loved it. So we did it in Russian and in English. We'll break all the chains. Brothers, if God will not help us, let us be free on our own. We'll break all the chains that bind us and travel together alone. Which is a wonderful kind of agnostic, anarchistic formulation. And this became a kind of parole for us. This is Zusammen allein, or Allein zusammen. And the next song that I have in here is this one, which when I came across it in this book, I remember I was sitting in Karen Underhill's apartment in Krakow back in like 2006 or something. Michael, you were there, and I came across this, and it was like finding a little piece of kryptonite or something, and I was Lex Luthor. I don't know what. I found this song and I thought, because I was about to travel to Israel to record an album with Psoy and with Oi Division, and I thought, wouldn't that be subversive to sing this song? And I learned this wonderful little tune. Ihr narische Zionisten mit euer narischen Meichel, ihr mögt doch gehen zu dem Arbeiter und lernen bei ihm a Seichel. Ihr mögt doch gehen zu dem Arbeiter und lernen bei ihm a Seichel. Ihr wollt uns finden kein Jerusalem, wir sollen dort Galadeien. Wir wollen besser sein in Russland, wir wollen sich befreien. Wir wollen besser sein in Russland, wir wollen sich befreien. So, it's a wonderful little song. It's obviously related a little bit to Komm her, du Philosoph. And when we recorded it together with all kinds of other material. We did the Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones in Yiddish and Russian. We did Ech Luli Luli. We did my new text to Dunai, which became Dumai Dumai, about the separation wall in Israel and Palestine. We also sang about Moscow, and we sang Pasha's song The Number. And then we had this little medley that was Oi inarische Zionisten. And then we did a Beitar song, a Yiddish Jabotinsky song called Ich heb auf mein Hand und ich schwör, which was like a real sort of bloodthirsty nationalist anthem. And then we sang The Hope, which was, you remember the fire? I don't have it here. The Fireside Folk Book.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Fireside Book of Folk Songs, right? So there's a section in there called Songs of National Aspiration or something, or Patriotic Feeling or something. It has songs like The Minstrel Boy and the Marseillaise, and probably, like some Spanish. It's a great book, beautifully illustrated, by a survivor, I think. And in there's this song that's just listed as The Hope, and it's Hatikva, but it's only printed in English, and it's a singable English, and the singable English is terrible. So we decided to sing this little like anti-Zionist Zionist medley and then end with The Hope, which we sang deadly serious, like, no messing around, but just singing it in English as printed. And this was for us a very like playful and subversive thing. And so that was the context in which Oi ir Narashitzionisten was recorded. And then over the years, oh, and we did it with this playful English translation and playful Russian translation. Oh, oh, you foolish little Zionists with your oh, you foolish little Zionists with your utopian mentality. You'd better go down to the factory and learn the workers' reality. You'd better go down to the factory and learn the workers' reality. You want to take us to Jerusalem so we can die as a nation. We'd rather stay in the diaspora and fight for our liberation. We'd rather stay in the diaspora and fight for our liberation. So this was my playful way of translating this song into a 2008 sensibility. Instead of Russenland, I thought diaspora actually scans better than Russland.
What about die instead of starve? The original is starve.
Yeah, so we can starve.
Yeah.
Well, again, this was also a bit of an updating. So we can die as a nation. Nation rhymes with liberation. It was my little tweak.
Yeah.
So some time went by, and then somebody sent me an article in Haaretz that was talking about how some right-wing settler party was having Yiddish Day in the Knesset, where they were like eating gefilte fish and having like kind of, like whatever Yiddish Day in the Knesset from a right-wing party would be. And that article ended up quoting this song and talking about how there's this other Yiddishkeit, which is like kind of having a resurgence, and there's all these young people who are playing klezmer music. And look, here's this song which was recorded by this band, and the song goes like this. And then they quote my English, but not the Yiddish. And I was a little bit, I was like, should I write to the Haaretz and like tell them to make a correction that this is not an accurate translation, that this was my like playful, I didn't write, but. And this song really has legs, as it were. Like I encounter young folks all the time who know this song, who sing it at protests, and it's really become re-folklorized as a kind of contemporary anti-Zionist anthem, which is fine. I can't, I'm not gonna. I certainly don't feel bad about that. But I mean, it's interesting the life that these songs can have. And I think that had I written a new English song called "Oh You Foolish Little Zionists," first of all, I don't think I would ever write anything that's that didactic. But the fact that it's an old song, the fact that it's a rooted in Jewishness song, the fact that it's an artifact is its strength, is precisely how folks who are expressing opposition to the regime in Israel and the war, they are bringing their whole sense of Jewishness to bear, and they're bringing their sense of history to bear. And songs like this, they're very rare. Although I was contacted by this Yarden Katz. Does anybody know him? All right, he's a student. He's a student. I don't know if he's a student or if he's a doctor. I don't know who he is. He wrote to me. He sent an email to me, and apparently he found like 6 or 7 other variants of this song. Actually, that all are a little bit different. So, that's the story of Oye Narashitzionisten, and it was even readapted into an anti-Zionist song recently by somebody who was mad at a bunch of us left Yiddishists online and they wrote Oi ihr narische Progressisten. So It's fair game. Like, and that got a big like from me, even though that person wished that I should burn to death for having for having been on an album with some other people who are here.
Just out of curiosity, he is a faculty member at Michigan, and
Oh, is he? Okay,
he's
good.
an assistant professor, and he studies imperialism, white supremacy, racial capitalism, biomedicine, eugenics, and exploited labor in science and radical social movements. So this
Sounds like a prime candidate for being, attacked by the current regime.
This is somebody you.
I hope he's not going to try to fly to Spain anytime soon.
He's quite an activist and interesting character, so you might want to get in touch with him.
I did. I wrote back to him. Admittedly late. I was late in getting back to him, but we are in touch. And he sent me. I guess Lehman has the song in one of his collections, and so does Pincus.
Lehman definitely has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to take a breather and see if people have responses to
Please.
some stuff, Barbara? I don't know, Itzik. Ethel?
I find it totally fascinating. I mean, Dan, you are extraordinarily articulate and deep thinking. So we don't need any labels. That's a fact. And so
Thank
incredibly
you, dear.
talented across the board. Yowza. So yeah, I mean it's such a brand new world. And I remember the first time I heard you, it was I think it was Itzik's 50th birthday party. Itzik, when was that?
2007.
At the Hebrew Actor Union.
27,
Yep, at the Hebrew
Yeah.
Actors Union, and
Amazing.
Dan on piano, and then you procession around the room with accordion, and it was like, oh my God, this is brand new, and it was exhilarating. It was extraordinary. It was like a breakthrough to the to the 20th century, never mind 21st century. So
Thank you, dear.
I applaud so what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I can't. I didn't know that you were there that night, and I didn't meet you. I think until years later.
Yeah.
I regret not having met you then. Sorry, Barbara, are you speaking?
Yeah, stop sharing your screen, please, so we can.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Back in my. This is the boat, by the way. We're here on board.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. Are you moving?
You're all welcome here.
Are you moving?
Please come.
Does it move?
Not much. When there's a lot of wind, it'll kind of. You feel it. When a big boat goes by, you feel it. But we're in a harbor. There's not a lot of action.
Dan, I have a question.
Yeah.
It's not really related to what we've been doing, but I always wanted to ask you, the song Mein Tata Koyen from Gebirtig.
Yeah.
You translate it, and then you left out the punchline at the end in English. Or both.
Oh yeah, I never attempted to render the whole song in English because that's one of those things where like in a song, I kind of feel like that translation is sort of. I mean, one could make an English version that fully renders the whole story about a Vremel and his father, but it's actually really complicated. Like if you don't know about, I mean, I know he says it in the song like "Weil Koyen misverlosen Heus liegt am Mess," but just saying that doesn't exactly clear it up. Like, why does a Cohen have to leave a house that has a dead body in it? Like, you can look it up and read. Oh, okay, Kohanim, they have like all these rules. I've looked this up because I've been a Kohen. And it's crazy the amount of rules that there are in the Talmud about what a Kohen can do and what they can't do. I know that my grandfather, Ed, after whom I'm named, I'm actually Edward Daniel. So Edward Kahn, he was a dyed-in-the-wool, yucky atheist. Like he was a real kind of, free-thinking guy in Cleveland in his day. And he would use his last name as an excuse to not go to people's funerals. I mean, this was a real chazer eater, but he was not too secular to like not use that as a reason to not go to somebody's funeral. And say, yeah, sorry, I can't go. I'm a Cohen. I mean, his father was already named Kahn. It was his grandfather who was named Cohen from Königsberg, Prussia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Cohensberg. Now we know what it's really about.
Yeah. Well, so that, yeah, it's funny. I mean, I never thought about trying to translate that whole song. The English that I do in there is I just kind of threw it in just to have something. I think I wanted to say fuck. He don't fuck around. Because it's a punchy song. There's something so like school, it's a street song. It's a weird little song. I love it.
So how does it feel to become folk? I mean,
I'm waiting for the check.
The folk don't get checks. By definition.
That's the thing about the folk. The folk don't get paid. Yeah, I mean Leonard Cohen had a nice quip about that. That for some reason he had signed away he didn't have the rights to Suzanne anymore. And he said, but then once I was on a boat on the Caspian Sea and I heard sailors singing it on a different boat. And I thought, maybe it's good that I don't own that one. But I think it's probably bullshit, that story.
Well, the problem is that you're a known folk, as opposed to unknown folk. So what happens to the word? When we say your songs are folklorized, does that make you a folk poet?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if my songs are folklorized. I mean,
well, you just said it was.
I mean, I guess that Oye Narische Zenissen was re-folklorized.
Right. Well, that's not.
And I mean, and I guess that would be going back to what Dave Van Ronk said. Like that's the folk process.
Right.
And I guess I had a hand in processing that one, because unfortunately not everybody has a copy of this book. But
unfortunately, for sure.
Well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, unfortunately, everybody should have this book. I think Sasha said that she's gone through like three copies of it. I don't believe her, but other books here. So some other books that I thought were relevant. Here's. Yeah,
so you don't use the Rubin anthology, right?
Yeah, there's the Rubin anthology over there, and here's Voices of a People. Here's the Yudla. Oh, okay. Can I show another song really quick? Because I think it's relevant. Sure. And this is a bit of a different thing, because this was a song that I got in here, in Yiddish Volkslieder mit Melodies. And this is also like, false advertising, because this is a song that has, on a melodia. There's a bunch of songs in here that have no melodias.
Right.
And so I found, now I'm going to share again. I found this song here, which is song, I'm sure, all right, so song 487, which is probably in and it's just this little, it says, Lechevich, Wilner Gegend. Wo is Lechevich? You know Lechevich?
Nee,
right.
Echt ken ik.
It's in the Wilner Gegend, all right? So it's just this little...
Ze bestaan bij Lechevich in Weiss-Russland.
Ah, yeah.
Okay,
No, Lechevich with a lamed.
Right. No, I think in Belarusian it's
Ah,
Yachavishi.
okay.
Yeah, anyway, yeah.
So anyway, that's I found this like amazing little lyric, and I was thinking about like how to sing it, you know? And since there's no music in there, I just decided that it was an American song. And I wanted because there's something about this text reminds me of those songs that you find in the Wobbly songbook, you know, because it's like it's a worker song and it's a drinking song, you know? And it's like Hallelujah, I'm a bum or something, you know. So I did this. Steiner in der Herze haben die Ballebatim zwei Leben mit dem Arbeiter von dannen dahin. Wenn der Ohr mehr arbeitet, trinkt euch ein bisschen Jasch, ruft man ihm a schicke Waffen mit dem Gas. Oi, Prost, der Bronfen ist nicht kein Wein, und a gildener Becher ist nicht kein Koss, und an Ohr mehr arbeitet ist nicht kein Ballebus. The boy shall oil him favors. The boy shall oil him favors. Well, the hearts of the bosses are cold as a stone. They think that the worker is something they own. When you have a little drink just to get through the day, they call you a drunkard and throw you away. Well, regular brandy ain't sparkling wine, and a regular bottle ain't a goblet of gold, and a regular worker got to do what you're told. Lord, won't you tell me why? Oh Lord, won't you tell me why?
Right.
So it's a handy little song. It's really fun to sing. It's easy to teach, and we just recorded it on the new record. It's going to be out. We play it right after the Yiddish version of "Hard Times Come Again No More," and it's a nice little. And then after that, there's a German song.
Huh.
But it's another example of like, all right, so there's like this stuff, right? There's all these like, also here, you know, Marek Ginsburg. It's like there's all these lyrics that have no extant music. And what do you do with it? You know, do you try to write something? Do you try to like figure out how it would have been, or you just do something with it?
Well, that's the folk process for sure.
I guess, yeah. But then it starts getting into like, I don't know. So did I write that song? It certainly doesn't feel like I composed the music for that.
No.
It was more like I had the idea to sing it in the style of something,
Yeah.
which is what a lot of songwriting is anyway, to be frank.
Yeah.
I mean, you it doesn't start with the music or the lyrics. It starts with like the idea of a certain kind of song. Like, what does this song need to, is this song a screwdriver? Is this song a pair of pliers? It's like, what is the function of the song? And I was like, okay, this function of this song is to be like some old, you know, socialist drinking song. Yeah.
Well, a lot of old folk songs were you can track them down as poems published in a newspaper in like Lima, Ohio, and we don't know who took that poem and turned it into the song we know. And it didn't start as start as a literate version. But that's the folk.
And the Star Spangled Banner, wasn't that like a poem that was set to a drinking song?
Yeah.
And that song's done very well for itself.
So
I don't know. Yeah.
So what do you, when you're doing a lot of teaching, so what do you find that this Jungvark, the eager beavers, how do they relate to the idea of constructing a text as a process? And how do they have like analytical minds? I mean,
Totally. I mean, like, young people are so much smarter than anybody besides you folks. I mean, with the exception of these, you know, six individuals, like, the young people are smarter than every. I mean, Isabel and I taught a class at Yiddish Summer Weimar. We taught two classes together, like two different levels, but it might as well have just been. I mean, it was the level. I don't know how the levels work, and they were amazing. They were writing new songs and adapting things and translating things and finding poems and setting them to music, and somebody would suggest, like, oh, I should show you this. You always, this is a great. Okay, so here's the book process for you. Wait, let me find this. Da-da-da-da-da, para la guerra. Here we go. Okay, so this woman who was in the class named Inger Hahndorf, and there were all kinds of folks also there that year, this summer, from England and from Scotland, and just like really wonderful stuff. Like, so this woman, she was like, because the way that Isabel and I structured the workshops is every day we had each group for 3 hours, and it was like for 6 or 7 days. It was actually quite a long period. It was great. And we divided up so that the first hour and a half would be new Yiddish song repertoire. So, like, teaching Yiddish songs that were created or written in the last 30 years or 40 years maybe. Michael, we taught a couple of your songs. Josh, we taught a couple of your songs. Itzik, we taught a couple of your mom's songs. We taught a song by Susan Gerges. We taught songs that we taught. You know, I have a list. It was actually a good list of, like, some songs of, like, new Yiddish canon. And then for the second half of each session, we just left it open to them. And I brought in a bunch of books, and we talked about what we might want to do. And people had different projects. And it was a kind of abbreviated songwriting workshop, not unlike what you and I do, Josh, at Yiddish New York, but also with a focus also on adaptation, because it was going to be like, it was going to be super fast, and people were going to be creating things in the workshop rather than bringing things from outside. And this one woman said, like, where is it? So she was like, have you heard of this Colombian singer, Marta Gomez? And we were like, no, of course not. And so she brought in this song that's like, Michael, you'll have to forgive me, or anyone here who speaks Spanish, actually. It's called Para la Guerra Nada, you know? Para el viento una cometa, para el disenso un pincel, para la siesta una hamaca, para el ama un pastel, para el silencio una palabra, para la oreja un caracol, un columpio para la infancia y al oído un cordión, para la guerra nada. So she had written this song like maybe 10 years ago, and it went all over South America, and she gave it to all of her friends, and at this point there's like 30 verses, and it's such an amazing form, you know, like, for this, that, and for this, that, and this for that, and this for that, but for the war, nothing. And so we're like, oh, this is amazing. What a beautiful form. Let's crack it open. And so, like, a bunch of us, we, like, went out to dinner, and, like, we were just sort of, like, hacking away at this for a couple of days. And we came up with, like, quite a nice little like fahren Stiebele a Feier und a Hammer fahren Schmied fahren aus jener Scheier fahr die kinderliche Lied fahr der Schkia Lechayim fahren Winter am Aranz dem Neshome Hashemayim fahr die Fisselech a Tanz fahr dem Chome Gonisht. To the candle give a fire, to the autumn give the rain, to the troubadour a lyre, to the children a refrain. Give an orange to the winter, give a flower to the host, give a dance to raise the spirit, to the sunset raise a toast, to the war give nothing. Fahren Beimele a Fegel und der Frühling Zeit a Quet, fahren Seiden ju a Schmeichel, fahren Pastachel a Fleit, fahren Oremen a Meichel, fahren Blimele a Bien, fahr die Sommertag a Teichel und dem Harz a Mandolin, fahr dem Nummer Chome gar nicht. And then there was even a little German version, which is not very, it was playful. It was for Yiddish summer, for Weimar Yiddish summer. But this is immediately a folk song. I mean, yes, it's by Marta Gomez, but she immediately sort of released it to the folk as soon as she wrote it. And it's not like the translation is really a translation of any of the images in hers. But this is, it felt, and, writing it with a group. This is another thing that like these little temporary Yiddish autonomous events provide is like the chance to like really collaborate in the co-laborate, to really work together, and people creating things collectively. And that's a really beautiful thing that doesn't happen enough, because we're all so focused on like who did what and who owns what and IP this, and I don't, like it's all very tiring. And I can safely say that like literally everybody who was in that group worked on this translation, and it worked on the Yiddish and the English verses and the German, and then the song is everybody's, and it should keep growing, So that's a really great instance recently of what I consider like just a pure folk experience of Yiddish song production.
Collective composition. The whole 19th century, they had this academic debate of whether folk songs were collectively composed or were by individuals. It was like a big deal to go back and forth. And this is a collective composition. It exists.
Yeah, it was composed by committee. It was an ad hoc committee.
The Hive composer.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting because that's also in the process of people improvising verses on a formula, according to a musical and poetic formula, in so many cultures, is a similar kind of creation. I mean, it's somewhat of a different process but I mean, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I mean, is it really
essentially,
is that really so different? Is it, it's another way of doing that. Of course, it's not necessarily written down, but some of those get fixed and so forth. Some of those verses, cultures that have, like coplas in Mexican Spanish. I mean, there's, tons of this in in Spain and in Latin America, then Russian chastushkis, Yiddish couplet, and so forth, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, and this, I know that Isabel spoke about this a lot, about the post-vernacularity, so-called, of our younger community, and myself included, as someone who's, like, that level of idiomatic proficiency and, the ability to, like, just swim in it, like, and I think that we're seeing a shift also in like the younger generation of Yiddishists, like mostly because of so many folks who are like, OTD or like coming from the world, like they bring a level of of like colloquial, you know, they're like they swim in that water, you know, and I feel like I just fish in it, you know.
That's a great metaphor. But I mean, it's, I mean, you and Josh and Ethel and I mean, we teach and, work with, not only teach, but work with and collaborate with folks like that. I mean, I just spent 4 days up in Northampton with, that crew of, Rachel Leader,
Mm,
Ozzy and Ariel and Weaver. And,
Weaver,
and
I'm jealous.
yeah, no, it's just I mean, and and it goes on and on and on. I mean, in numbers, I'm not sure we can totally call it post-vernacularity anymore.
Right.
It's not the vernacular that most people use, but the level of proficiency and familiarity with Yiddish is really, it's just rising and rising and rising. And I knew there'd been a change when Michael Winograd took a Yiddish course. I know that to me was like, it was like the great Danube bend, right?
Yeah.
The Yiddish is crossing a certain Rubicon.
Right, exactly. Right. The Rubicon. Right.
Even the clarinet players.
Right.
Next, it'll be the drummers, right?
En hij wil dat veel clarinetist het Yiddish.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, which is reminding me that, back in when was this? The late 80s, so 1988, 89. I mean, Ben Basler kind of shook his finger at Joel Rubin and Alan Byrne and Stewart and said, als je wil zijn een klezmer, darfst du reden Yiddish. But it wasn't so much scolding as it was like, he was, hey guys, you should learn this stuff to really understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
And it's learnable. I mean, to a degree, I mean, you're constantly pushing up against the unlearnability of all of it. There's no bottom to those waters
No
that I
bottom.
fish in.
Yeah, but also remember that native speakers who were uneducated were also speaking with a small percentage of the language. You know what I mean? And it couldn't necessarily be reading Glotstein and understanding everything, or other kinds of literature. And it is, after all, these speakers who created most of what we're studying.
Yeah,
absolutely. So there's a whole range of registers that we're dealing with, not to mention the fact that the people who wrote certainly in the 20th century, but even well before that, were all multilingual. And I was reminded of this. There's a film about the Bund, on the 100th anniversary of the Bund that was made, and Vlatko Mead, who was one of the members of the Warsaw Ghetto Underground. Whoops. Made a casual reference to a term for the Pole who would turn over a Jew in hiding. And I forget what the word is, what the term was.
Maltsovnik, maybe?
What's that?
Maltsovnik?
Maybe.
Wasn't that a black market?
Whatever it was, she said, and she was speaking in Yiddish, and she said, we would call such a person a schmaltzovnik, or whatever the term was, in unser Loschen. Meaning that among themselves, they were speaking Polish in the Warsaw Ghetto. So, it's hard to overstate the degree to which Yiddish as a second language, which is kind of what Dan, you're describing is now becoming prevalent among a certain layer of new Yiddish songwriters, is not so exceptional as we, I think we've passed the point where we have to apologize for lack of depth of knowledge of Yiddish. And, many of us also converse in Yiddish when we're speaking. I mean, some of us speak Yiddish to our kids. I do to this day. I don't speak English to my kids. But I think that the thing that interests me is, it kind of the song you were just Gomez's song reminds me a little bit of a song that Sarah Gordon wrote.
Echad B'Yodea, or another one?
Yeah, it's a very similar kind of.
It's sort of like it's like a litany of like
things. Right, a litany in which is very receptive to a certain level of knowledge of Yiddish, or whatever language you're writing in. I mean, you could write such a song in Russian if you'd studied Russian for a while.
Speaking of Russian, what it was. Sorry, Josh, were you done?
Yeah, no, just to say that, just to confirm the idea that we've reached a different level now in the post-vernacularity stage of development. And I guess I would just add one thing. One of the reactions to the CD that came out, Lila mit Palestina, was an objection from one of the YIVO staff members who.
Which one? I'm just kidding.
When I give you the quote, you'll guess it.
No, I know who it is before you even say it. You gave him away already. Them. I don't know who they are.
Who complained that that the songwriters were exploiting Yiddish.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
That's really something.
Which actually, I mean, I mean, if we think of the different meanings of exploit, was actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yiddish was underpaid for that project.
Yes, it was seriously underpaid.
Well,
I like when we were also accused of Ashken normativity, which is hilarious.
Oh, great. I am always happy when we get past the term that people have used. I'm so glad we're past post-vernacularity. We're past post-klezmer. We're past post-modern, and nobody knows what to do with post after post. So you can't call it.
We could call it almost vernacularity.
The new vernacularity.
Ghost vernacularity.
The new vernacular, or whatever, something that will say we're in another phase, guys. Well, we're going to run out of time pretty soon, but this is great. I mean,
that was totally delightful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my! I want to just hang out with you guys forever. This is like the nicest.
Well, I mean, we thought we were going to have less time today, so we were talking about this doesn't have to be the only time.
Right.
We're all in conversation with each other, but
sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we're out of time, but the only thought, which is just a thought, not necessarily for discussion, is the how different it feels, like how an English translation from Yiddish, how different it feels from a Yiddish translation from English. In other words, somehow it's I don't even know how to explain it. And it's got a lot to do with affect and with how those translations resonate with other songs that are originally in the language into which they have been translated.
Mm.
So that all of a sudden, a Yiddish song, which sounds one way in Yiddish, when translated in English, maybe sounds like, Pete Seeger or Guthrie or like, and it isn't a matter of the faithfulness or the colloquialness or there's something inherent in the language itself so anyway, those were some thoughts. I didn't, the conversation was flowing. It was going in all kinds of wonderful directions. So I didn't really want to raise it, but I just would leave us all with that
Yeah,
thought.
that's an excellent point.
It's really, really great what
Yeah.
you said. Like it's
Yeah.
it's something that I think about a lot, of course. Like
But also, well, go ahead. Well, okay, no, I'll say what I was going to say, which is that, you and I especially, and I would say Ethel is in this company too, but you and I, I mean, who are our models for doing this? It was, I mean, it was certainly Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, other, I mean, composers who whose work became familiar largely through the folk music scene, the folk movements in the Anglo world. And then, I mean, all other genres of traditional song in English. I mean, I was going to say before when we were talking about, well, especially in reference to Wie Heilige die Natur, and you were saying, I mean, there's this, it conjures up this archaic world, but we do nothing if also you and I certainly, and I feel like Ethel too, and Josh to me is in a little different category, but that but because when we're rendering things in English, um, what do we reference is the archaisms in Anglo song. And I mean, here I am, I'm speaking to you from like a barren point, on the Scottish coast. I mean, I'm surrounded by this stuff now because I have there's an amazing group of Scottish traditional singers who I meet with once a month when and but not only that, though, we're steeped in that, and to me, referencing that archaism, those archaisms, as well as the more contemporary language, is part of the whole process.
well, I mean, on that note, well, all of you are welcome if you happen to be in Hamburg on the second Tuesday of any month. I have a group where we just sing sea shanties, and which I've called the event a shantarai, which they thought was apt, and yeah, I mean, I'm learning about all kinds of different, like, you know, German, Plattdeutsch, no, it's mostly English language shanties that we sing. But I think, like, it, and this is the last point I'm making, we're out of time, is like, when I translated things into English, I'm always trying to find some sort of a stylistic reference to find the level of English that I'm translating it into. And sometimes the shorthand for that is like, okay, well, I made a whole record of Bulata Kujava songs, and it's like, oh, well, when you do these Russian songs in English, they sound a lot like Leonard Cohen.
Right.
And so I'm like, I hear Leonard Cohen's voice, and a good clue to like sort of the landscape of lyricists and songwriters that I reference in my English translations. You can look at the songs that I translate into Yiddish, because I do Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan, and the new record has a Bonnie Prince Billy song, and Stephen Foster, and Lou Reed is on the last one, and Tom Waits, or I'll translate. When I translated Harp's Lead, I was like, okay, well, if this were an English song, I would want it to be a Kate Wolf song. So I thought, okay, well, how would this song be in sort of the sort of world of Kate Wolf,
Right,
or
right.
the world of Bruce Springsteen for a song like the Milner's Tränen, you know.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of Okujava, I was gonna the Marta Gomez song. It reminded me totally of Molitva by Okujava, except a far brighter. Like, it's like Molitva, which is, Paka Zimia Ishuviertitsa,
yeah,
Paka
I didn't put that together, but
Ishuviertitsa.
it's this
It's,
kind of regime of like,
and then these kind of gut punching and surprising images. But with Okujava, it's dark and understandably so. And this is like a much, like I said, a kind of warmer, sunnier, way warmer, sunnier, but with a serious punch at the end too. So
I love the punch, and I still haven't nailed. You should look up her original because she has this amazing like
yeah.
rhythm to it. The way that it worked, it's really nice.
Okay, I think we have a wrap, folks.
I just wanted to insert a quick comment, which I remembered. We were talking about, the new generation for whom Yiddish and so forth. Kaczerginski, when he wrote the lyrics for Stille Stille, which was not his melody,
Right.
right, wrote it originally in Polish. And then translated it into Yiddish. So
Wow.
think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Edelstadt grew up speaking Russian, and
Right.
Ein Russian is kein Mal nicht genug.
On this happy note, so we will regroup whenever
Ethel,
we can all find ourselves together.
Wait, Ethel, you're muted. Ethel is.
I'm screaming and I'm muted. Okay. Let's include that book about synonyms that you mentioned very early on.
The rhyming
Songwriter's
dictionary?
Rhyming Dictionary by Sammy Kahn.
Yeah, put that in the thing in our blog.
I will.
Okay.
Okay. I'll fill out the little document that I was making with some of the things that I referenced.
Right.
I'll send you a copy of that article that was not published, and I'll send you also the Martha Gomez song.
Excellent. Ashenim Dank, and thank everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you all
Dan.
for coming.
Thank you.
Ashenim
It's a
Dank.
great treat.
I hope to see you all in good health in December.
Right. Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Bye.